so we're going to move straight into the next session, which is carrying on this theme, the major theme of our conference, what do women need? And here we're going to be focusing on questions of justice, law and human rights. Our first speaker is Deirdre Duffy, who is the Deputy Director of the Irish Council for Civil Liberties. And we're very, very grateful to the Irish Council for Civil Liberties, who particularly in the past year have been incredibly supportive of the work of the coalition and have contributed in very, very important ways. So I'd like to kind of acknowledge that today. So Deirdre, as well as being Deputy Director, conducts research and prepares policy documents on issues of equality, criminal justice and international human rights for submission to national and international bodies. So please welcome Deirdre Duffy.
Thank you very much, Sinead. The ICCL is delighted to be here this morning. We are an independent human rights watchdog and we are, as Sinead said, a member of the Repeal the AIDS Coalition. And at this time I'd like to give my own hooray to the conference planning group of the coalition for bringing us all here together today, and a very loud hooray for Alba Smith and Sinead Kennedy in particular, who have given up so much of their time in a voluntary capacity to get us to this point. So thank you very much. The ICCL is going to be 40 years old next year, and we are a pro-choice organisation. We believe that political leaders can no longer ignore what women need to enjoy full reproductive health care in Ireland. Why is this? 3 reasons. First of all, we know from opinion polls that the Irish public want more liberal abortion laws. Secondly, we have seen increasingly robust recommendations from serious international human rights bodies on this issue. And failure to implement minimum human rights standards in Irish abortion laws in Ireland will simply leave the government in an untenable position in terms of their leadership on human rights issues globally. This is not something that a country which is aspiring to be a member of the UN Security Council wishes to see in its election manifesto. And thirdly, if we remain where we are, our stance on reproductive health care in this country will align to conservative Catholic countries and Puritan US states. Does anyone think that this is the Ireland of now? We don't. We are the land of marriage equality. There is a growing consensus that we are moving into a space where a referendum on the 8th will become a political inevitability. In the Taoiseach statement yesterday, which we welcome, what I hear is this: there is an openness and a willingness to have a referendum on the 8th, even within Fine Gael, if we can together consider what comes next. And that's why this conference is so important. So with that in mind, let's consider our most recent referendum victory. A referendum on the 8th will be fundamentally different. There will be no flags waved when a woman has an abortion, because this is a private medical issue. Marriage is a social and legal union where the public declaration of love and commitment is key to many who choose to marry. However, we can take heart from many of the dynamics which saw yes storm across the finish line just this year. We know that the public mood on abortion is shifting. The influence of the Church in Ireland has been diluted through reformed democratic structures. Political bravery is being demonstrated. And as we heard earlier from our speakers, women are finding a voice. Women who have had abortions and are having abortions are speaking out, and I thank you for that. And the public are empathizing. Young people have been mobilised. Look at the amount of new voters that were registered in the Register of Voters for the Marriage Equality referendum. In that group, there are many young people who never had a say in any of the previous referenda, yet they are forced to live under its restrictive laws. When we have a referendum on the 8th, they will get their opportunity to have their say. I'm here to talk to you about human rights. Every single UN committee, bar one, which is a very specialist remit, has condemned and or raised the matter of Ireland's restrictive laws. And as I mentioned earlier, the recommendations are getting stronger and stronger. In fact, when you monitor the UN committees, and there's people here today who do that on a regular basis, you will see the committee members, they're dumbfounded on the Irish position. They can't understand how we are supposed to be a modern democratic state, a member of the European Union, and yet we have these laws in place. Just briefly, to give you an overview, the UN Human Rights Committee, the Anti-Torture Committee, the Committee on the Rights of the Child, which Ireland will be reporting to in 2016, has raised the issue of access to abortion for young girls in Ireland. The Elimination of Discrimination Against Women Committee, and also, most recently, the UN Committee on Economic, Social and Cultural Rights. This committee gave the strongest recommendation yet. The state must take all necessary steps, including a referendum on abortion, to revise its legislation on abortion. And finally, I want to alert you to the Universal Periodic Review Process, or UPR. Some of you will know that in 2011, Ireland was reviewed for the first time under this process, which is a really important political mechanism of the UN Human Rights Council. And that body is the most important human rights entity within the UN system. In 2011, Ireland received 6 recommendations with respect to reforming its abortion laws. We are up for review again in 2016, and we very much expect that dialogue and that discourse on how our abortion laws come into line with international human rights standards will continue. We expect more and stronger recommendations next year. So you'll see there is a pattern here. I think it's fair to say we are way out of line with international human rights standards on this issue. And unless we take steps to reassert the balance and deliver women's health equality, we will remain a nation of unequals, despite the huge successes of 2015. So in good news, let's think forward, and the 8th Amendment is a distant memory. So what do we do next? Well, human rights and equality standards can provide us with a roadmap, and that roadmap is one which respects autonomy, privacy, bodily integrity, freedom from inhumane and degrading treatment, and choice. There will be different opinions here today around the framework we use in Ireland when the 8th is repealed, but we need to start that discussion now. We need to have evidence-based and workable ideas about the type of regime we wish to see in place post-repeal. And I think this is not only important so that a consensus can be reached in the future, but it's also important so that we don't create a potential vacuum where voters might get worried or scared. They might think that a referendum isn't needed, that repeal isn't needed, or that if we do repeal, it will not grant them what they're telling us in the opinion polls they wish to see. If access to abortion, to safe and legal abortion, is a human right, what does this mean in practice? The World Health Organization would say that it means an enabling legal and policy environment to ensure that every woman who is legally eligible has ready access to good quality abortion services. In the real world, this means, and I know Sally spoke to a number of these issues earlier, first of all, that decriminalisation occurs. Information must be provided. Services should be available throughout the country. Unnecessary barriers should be removed. Services must be affordable, as has been mentioned as well. Privacy and confidentiality must be respected. Consent should be real. And women should be empowered to participate in decisions around their own health. At this point, I'd also like to mention the European Court of Human Rights. Pretty much everyone here today, I assume, will know about the ABC versus Ireland case. But I think it is very important to bear in mind that the court will not accept a situation where there is a discordance between the theory in law or regulation, which is what we might be talking about today, and the practical access, so the practice of obtaining an abortion. The ICCL made a number of submissions to the Council of Europe, which is the body that oversees the implementation of the judgments, to the Committee of Ministers of the Council of Europe, pointing out that the Protection of Life During Pregnancy Act 2013 created so many barriers to accessing abortion that it wasn't real in practice. So if a woman is entitled to an abortion, then health, medical, legal, probation and any other service must be organised so as to ensure that she gets it. And Evelyn spoke earlier about the change after repeal of the 8th being more about the law, and I very much concur with that, because human rights does not just mean that there is a legal or regulatory change, it also means that in practice women can access abortion. So in signing off today, I would like to leave you with one word that is the gold standard on this issue. I've mentioned it already, but it's accessibility. We may have to work hard to find a consensus on how Ireland, post-repeal, will deal with abortion rights. I have no doubt that we can get there. Look at this room full of committed, energetic, passionate people. But whatever that is, it must mean in reality that there is effective access. And the ICCL looks forward to working with you all and with political leaders as we take a further step towards full equality in Ireland. Thank you.